Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our regular town council meeting of December 9th, 2025. I officially call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Mayor James,
Here.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Here.
Councilman McCormick,
Here.
Councilman Sampson,
Here.
Councilman Johnson.
Here.
A quorum is reached.
Thank you very much. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If you are in favor, please, at the roll call, please indicate aye. If not, nay. Madam Town Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. Next on our item is the disclosure of violation of Open Meetings Act. The town of La Plata acknowledges the findings issued by the Maryland Open Meetings Compliance Board regarding a meeting that did not comply with the requirements of the Maryland Open Meetings Act. In the OMCB opinion number 326, the OMCB concluded that the town of La Plata violated the Maryland Open Meetings Act as follows. 1, the town council's September 11th, 2025 retreat constituted a meeting subject to the act. 2, failure to provide reasonable advance notice of the retreat constituted a violation of Chapter 3-302A of the Act. And 3, failure to prepare minutes of the retreat constituted a violation of Chapter 3-306 of the Act. We take this matter seriously and recognize the importance of maintaining the public's trust through transparency and accountability. In accordance with Chapter 3-211 of the OMA, we are hereby publicly disclosing the board's opinion and finding. This action reflects our ongoing commitment to lawful governance and public accountability. To further strengthen our compliance with the OMA and prevent future violations, the town is implementing the following corrective actions. 1, expanded calendar protocol. Any gathering where a quorum of the town council will be present, regardless of its stated purpose or format, will be posted on the town's online meeting calendar with appropriate notice and agenda details. 2, compliance checklist. Town staff will implement an OMA compliance checklist to be used for all council gatherings to ensure proper notice, agenda preparation, public access, and minutes requirements are met. And 3, training and review. Town staff will retake OMA training and will place particular focus on identifying which gatherings constitute meetings subject to the Act. All town officials engaging in activities that may be subject to OMA will be required to complete OMA training. We remain committed to conducting all town business in accordance with the law and in service to the residents of La Plata. All right, so next going on there is we went into closed session on November 18th. If I can find it now, I'm sorry, here we go. In accordance with the Maryland Open Meetings Act, Code General Provision Article 3-211, we are required to include specific information in the meeting when a public body meets in closed session. To ensure full compliance, we have attached the written statement that includes the reason for closing the meeting, the statutory authority permitting the closed session, a list of topics discussed, the individuals present, and the action taken. This document has been made part of the public record to maintain transparency and meet the legal requirements of the Act. All right, so next on our agenda is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is designed to approve projects in a single motion that, while very important, do not require council or staff discussion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, go ahead. Councilman Sampson.
I just had one quick question. On the, in the letter from, CDM Smith on page, I think it is, 2, under task 3, where it says assumptions. And it says, no engineering design services are included in this proposal. CDM Smith is performing a desktop analysis and no process modeling is being performed. I was just wondering, could you just tell us exactly what that means? I just didn't understand that, what that actually meant.
So they're not going to be actually engineering any solutions. They're going to evaluate our wastewater treatment plant, provide analysis and recommendations. They'll be providing assistance with development of the I&I plan specifically, but they're not going to be acting as professional engineers that are going to design specific components or systems within the wastewater treatment plant as a part of this contract.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Any other further questions? Thank you very much. We've had a motion that has been properly seconded. When we do roll call, if you are in favor, please indicate aye. If not, nay. Madam Town Clerk.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to public comment. If anybody would like to speak this evening, I ask that you state your name, whether you live in the incorporated town limits, and if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be preferable. So do I have anyone that would like to speak this evening? All right. Thank you very much. Under matters of council discussion, the first item is town manager performance appraisal process. Sorry about that. And online, I believe we have Miss Emily.
Good evening. Let me share my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Emily Grew with Zelos. We are a small woman-owned training and consulting firm, and I have the pleasure this evening of addressing council regarding the performance review of your town manager. As you all know, Mr. Stevens signed his employment contract as La Plata Town Manager in April 2025 under the previous council. He started officially on June 16th after the current council was seated. He is due for a 6-month performance check-in, and then we'll have a more comprehensive 1-year performance review in 2026. The process for his 6-month review is on the screen now. I interviewed council last week to develop the performance review content and gather initial feedback. I will discuss the 6-month check-in process tonight in open session, and then during closed session, I will share the collective feedback that I've gathered so far and work with council to consolidate it into a single message. Then on December the 16th, in closed session, I will provide the consolidated feedback on behalf of council to the town manager. At that time, I will also share the performance appraisal form with the town manager so that he knows what to expect at his one-year performance review. The structure of the form is on the screen now. In developing the performance appraisal content and structure with council, our goal was to streamline the process with best practices that have worked for our clients in the past, as well as the most recent guidance from the ICMA, which is the International City County Management Association. It includes 4 sections, which you can see now, starting with competencies defined as a measurable pattern of knowledge, skills, abilities, behaviors, and other characteristics that an individual needs to perform work roles or functions successfully. Next up is core responsibilities, the primary duties and tasks that are associated with a particular role or position. Then strategic initiatives, the special projects, priorities, or long-term efforts that advance the organization's broader goals. And finally, areas for growth, which will be added to the year 1 review, which are the skills, behaviors, or knowledge needed to enhance performance, prepare for future responsibilities, or increase impact. So to summarize, at the 6-month check-in, I will provide a high-level summary of council feedback focused on top successes and some areas to watch. And then at the 1-year review, it will be the more detailed form council will complete with feedback and ratings on those 4 sections: competencies, core responsibilities, strategic initiatives, and areas for growth. That is it from me. Are there any questions from council?
Thank you very much, Emily. That was very well presented. Council,
course.
are there any questions? Council
No.
Blunger? Okay. Council.
No questions. Thank you,
All
Emily.
right. Well, that's a
course.
first, Emily. You did really well. There we go. We'll see you
My
again
pleasure.
later on this evening.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Next on the agenda is the Tourism Zones Ordinance.
All right, and I'm going to be joined this evening by our Director of Planning, Don Dooley, and also our Director of Legislative Services, Kelly Phipps. As soon as she can get out of the sound booth, she'll join us out here. I'll be leading the staff report for you this evening. I'm Chuck Stevens, your town manager. And by way of background, I believe everyone on council's conveyed to me at one point or another that you all saw the meeting last year, almost to the day. It was one year ago, almost to the day. That in their 2024 regular session, or I'm sorry, that the town council considered a tourism zone ordinance, and they weren't satisfied with what they saw that evening, and they asked staff to go back to the drawing board and make some enhancements and changes. So that's what you're seeing here in front of you this evening. So by way of background, in the 2024 regular session, the Maryland General Assembly adopted House Bill 1281 and Senate Bill 0014, which enabled municipalities to create tourism zones as a mean of encouraging growth and expansion of tourism-related businesses within areas designated by those jurisdictions. The Maryland Municipal League advocated for these bills based on the legislative action request initiated by the town of La Plata in August of 2023. An ordinance leveraging those tools provided by the Maryland legislature was considered by the town council in December 2024, as I already stated, but was not adopted because it was missing. I believe the quote that resonated with me was there were no meat on the bones. So hopefully this evening, what we've given to you is something that's a little bit meatier than what you saw a year ago or what this council saw a year ago. At the priorities retreat on September 11th, 2025, the town council identified the adoption of a tourism zone ordinance as one of the top 8 priorities for staff to pursue here in the remainder of 2025. Highlights of the resulting draft ordinance are as follows, and all of these were in your packet for your review and consideration before this evening. So the Director of Planning will be designated by the town manager and will serve as the program administrator. Applying businesses must be located within the designated tourism zone. I believe there was a map in your packet as well that showed you what that is, and we can speak to that and how that was arrived upon. The ordinance designates the first tourism zone to correspond with the town's sustainability community district as approved by the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. Other zones may be designated in the future at the recommendation of the town manager and approved by the town council. And definition of incentives for qualified tourism businesses. Those were the meat that we tried to add to this ordinance. The resulting ordinance includes the following revisions from the ordinance that was proposed in 2024. Eligibility criteria needs to be a commercial entity with a physical location within the designated tourism zone. Certain geographic and business model limitations are also in effect. Incorporation, we tried to incorporate the SBA, the Small Business Administration criteria, defining a small business as employing 50 or fewer full-time employees, and we tried to clarify examples of eligible business classes. Specific incentives to businesses designated as a qualified tourism business were highlighted in the ordinance as well, and definition of activities related to the preservation, rehabilitation, or restoration of designated historic buildings or structures were also addressed. The fiscal impact. The maximum awarded credit per qualifying tourism business is capped at $1,500. This cap was calculated through the planning department's analysis of the numbers and types of businesses that have obtained use and occupancy permits within the town's proposed tourism zone since January 2023. Based on the planning department's records, many businesses in the proposed tourism zone lease tenant spaces that range in area from 800 to 1,000 square feet. Additionally, most new businesses typically contract for tenant improvements to make modifications to the interior of their respective tenant spaces to accommodate their business operation. Based on staff's research, it will cost a new business leasing 1,000 square feet of commercial floor area with new signage, approximately $1,190 in tenant improvement permits and inspection fees based on the following costs. A town permit fee will cost you $250. The permit inspection fee is $675. A new business sign is $65, and sign inspection fees are $200, and that's totals that $1,190 that I mentioned earlier. Providing this credit for qualifying businesses will impact the town in two primary ways. First, issuing the credit will result in a reduction of revenue from permit fees, as the businesses would not pay these rates. Second, the town has an increase in expenses associated with inspection fees, as the cost of the inspections would be paid by the town. Together, these are expected to have minimal impact to operating revenues and expenditures, with a net effect of less than 2% of all permit revenues. The proposed ordinance also includes a one-time payment by the town for up to $300 in membership fees to a relevant business association approved by the town. The total benefit to approved applicants, therefore, would total as follows. You would have the permit inspection fee credit of $1,500, and then a membership fee to be paid by the town of $300 for a total of $1,800. That would be the maximum that a single business could possibly benefit under this program that the ordinance defines. The number of potential awardees would be defined by the town council in the annual budget, providing a predictable expenditure. Analysis of the number of applications received over time will provide a measure of overall effectiveness and fiscal sustainability of the program. Staff analysis identified 19 businesses that have been issued use and occupancy permits between January 2023 and the present. Of this group, approximately 50% are projected to meet the necessary qualification criteria to apply for this program. The effective date of this proposed ordinance is July 1st, 2026. This implementation timeline will position the town council to establish program funding during the FY27 budget development cycle. The council maintains the ability to determine funding for this program on an annual basis. Should funds not be available in any given year, the adoption of the ordinance with a $0 funding allocation remains a viable course of action. Additionally, through the town's beautification, public space improvement and community cleanup shingle sign project grant, businesses within the incorporated town limits may be awarded up to $200. The shingle sign grant program was designed to encourage the addition of visual interest in the downtown central business by supporting businesses in the central business zone for the installation of shingle signs in the downtown core of an approved style in compliance with the town code and in conformance with the approved common sign plan where applicable. Through this program, the town will provide up to $200 reimbursement for the purchase, preparation, and installment of a shingle sign. This grant is included in the annual budget under community promotion. The FY26 budget amount for this grant is $4,500. In your packet, you've got the strategic plan alignment as well as our sustainability and ADA considerations. Your recommended action from the staff this evening, council, is to adopt ordinance 25-10, the tourism zones. And staff is ready to answer any questions you may have this evening.
Thank you very much for that thorough report. I will open before I will reserve my comments to last. I will open the floor. Do you have anything to ask, Council?
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I am pleased to see, this back to us with meat on the bones, as you said, right? And so I think this gives a really good way for us, for the business community to engage with us in these numbers, right? So in addition to this is a benefit that's out there. If businesses want to engage with the town now and discuss this, if this number as an individual benefit isn't high enough to actually increase, if we see that, right, experientially, as you described, or if businesses want to reach out to us and proactively engage on this topic now, we have numbers that we can talk about, and we have context now to it. So I think this is really good in that way. The other comment I'll just make is that I think, following this, if we adopt this tonight, I hope that we look for ways that we can operationally make this known to the community, the business community. And you mentioned a couple programs in here too. So, there's probably an opportunity for us to do that. Thank you. That's all.
Councilman McCormick?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for this report. And thank you. I know we talked for a good hour plus this week over all the different topics on the agenda, but you've answered all my direct questions. If anybody wants to know what those are, feel free to ask. So I won't do it for redundancy's sake. But I do want to make a comment that I believe the last time the town had this conversation, to your point, we had a different town manager, and we did not have somebody in Don's position. And I think that it's great to see the staff coming together and working, breaking down these different silos, getting these departments together, like legislative services, like planning, like the assistant town manager and town manager, to really give us a final product that certainly got more, as Councilman Trollinger said way back then, meat on the bones, right? And I think that this is a very, very solid proposal. So thank you to all four of you and everybody else that helped put this together.
Yes, I just had one question. On the membership fee, can you give me an example of what that would be? Are we talking about a business association?
Mhm.
So like,
I'll give an example. I'll even tell you where we came up with the $300. So our first thought was, why don't we pay for membership into the Chamber of Commerce for a new business? And as we talked about that, we all agreed that that was a good idea. But then we said, well, why just the chamber? There are other organizations that do similar work, and why lock someone into a particular organization? If they don't want to be a member of the chamber, maybe they want to be a member of
Southern Maryland Business Network.
there you go, Southern Maryland Business Network. We arrived at the $300 though, because we went to the Chamber of Commerce's membership page, and we saw that if you're a business, and I think it's with 10 employees or less, that your annual membership fee is $305. And we said, well, if the town offered to cover the first 300, you could pay the other 5, and you could join the chamber if your business was that large, because I think there's even a business that's smaller.
Yeah, up to 5 was a decrease.
Right. And so, but we thought that the 300 was a nice round number. And so that's how we arrived at the type of organization, and also where we arrived at the number.
just as a quick follow-up. So for like that example, you gave the $300 to the chamber. So this would be annual for the fee, or is that separate from the credit itself?
It would be a one-time payment. It wouldn't be a recurring annual
Okay.
payment. It would be a one-time $300 payment
Yeah.
for that first year of membership into whatever business association that they chose, that we approve, and that language is clear in the ordinance, that we get to approve it. You don't just come in and say, oh, I want to join this organization. No, we get to approve that before we give you $300 worth of taxpayer money.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor James. And thank you to staff for the work. It's very detailed. I appreciate it. A few questions. As a business owner, and I gave Chuck insight into this, I invest $25,000 and the town offers me $1,800 in fee waivement. What is the benefit to the business owner?
Yeah.
I think I heard you last year, like it's chicken and egg.
No, that's exactly right. I think you unmuted.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and this is what I told Counselor Johnson, and I'll tell everybody here. Imagine a scenario in 5 months when we're talking about the budget. And let's say that there's a hypothetical conversation where this council might have to increase a fee. And let's say it's a fee that's going to affect businesses. Doesn't matter what that amount is. Say it's $5 or $10. But you're having a conversation about increasing the business fee. I guarantee you that you will hear from the business community that they're going to say, town fees are killing businesses, you're stifling businesses, and every penny counts. I'm a small business owner. So yes, I get it. It doesn't seem like a lot in the context of the ordinance, that it's a waiver of up to $1,200 and then a $300, membership fee. But businesses will tell you especially small businesses, every penny counts. So the benefit is $1,800.
Okay. All right. Plain and simple. The second question is, in the summary is 19 businesses, but only 8 will qualify. So, but if you're already in business, why can't you not be incentive from this ordinance? Is it because we only do business license fees at the establishment of your business, or do they renew yearly?
I think just, Don, maybe I'll lean on you here too, because we can use planning as an example. Typically, when government enacts some kind of legislation or takes some kind of regulatory action, you never look in the rearview mirror. You start and you have an effective date that's in the future. Everybody gets to understand what the new rules are, and that's the date that it starts. So if we were proposing, say, changes to the zoning code, and there were already people that were have permits or have entitlements to their land based on the prior code, we don't get to move the goalposts on them. We don't get to change. So that's the same mentality here is, yes, you would have qualified and we're very sorry that you missed out. We didn't have the program last year. We have it now. We're sorry, but we can't look in the rearview mirror.
There's also, Councilman Johnson, there's also opportunities for historic preservation in here as well. There's if a newer existing business puts in at least $1,000 toward some sort of preservation, rehabilitation to their building, they would also qualify. And it's a good first step toward having a more robust historic preservation program in the town.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate the work that came back before us. And it won't be passed. I appreciate the work done. It is a good start to engage in the town, like being a competition of people who want to trade here in the town. So
Thank you very much. Well, thank you for bringing this in. As Chuck had said to me, or Mr. Stevens had said to me, he goes, I know it might not be everything you want. I always want go big or go home, but this is a great first step. This ordinance can always be amended, and you have to see if there's an appetite out there for this. I would eventually love to see a TIF done, a tax increment financing done to attract businesses here. But this was important enough for MML to champion and for the governor to sign on first go around. And I applaud you all for the hard work that all of you as a team put in. We gave you a skeleton last year, and you really took it in a very short period of time from September until now. So 2 months, and brought us a product that we can really stand behind as one of the first steps and see if there's any interest come July 1st on that. All right. Any other discussion? Fantastic. So with that, if you are in favor of moving it to legislation, I ask that you indicate with aye, if not nay, and I will ask Madam Town Clerk to do a roll call.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
yes.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The consensus has been achieved.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is 5.3, direction to town manager on the appointment of a special counsel. And I will just throw that right out to Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. I caught it. All right. Good evening, everyone. So I requested this agenda item back on November the 15th in accordance with the rules and procedures. And the direction was simple. What the title is, Direction to the Town Manager on the Appointment of a Town Special Counsel. As you all know, the mayor is on a search to nominate or recommend for appointment to the council a town attorney, as we don't, can you hear me? Oh, okay. Anybody hear me? Ready to start over? That's going to come before the council as we do not currently have a town attorney, but we have special counsel, and that contract ends in February. So the point of my agenda item request was to make sure that the town has continuity and legal services come that time frame. As we know, the holidays are approaching, and there's 31 days in January, and then February will be here. So there's not much time. So that was the point of my agenda item, and to be clear on my request, if depending on how we go, if we lead this into next week, the motion would be to direct Chuck to do an appointment of a special counsel to bridge legal services for a fixed term. It's not intended to have Chuck come back before us with the special counsel for interviews. It's not the town attorney. Those services, and he would be depending on the threshold, the town council to approve the contract. If we get there. Tonight, I believe the mayor has an update for us on the attorney search. However, in the rules and procedures, this is not working. I'm sure y'all don't want me to start over. We're better. Thank you, Mr. Dillon. We'll keep it there for continuity purposes, just in case I run out again. So the mayor has an update, but in accordance with the rules, I requested the agenda item for the first meeting of the month. Tonight will be a consensus if the council would like to indulge me next week when making the motion, obviously depending on the mayor's report for town attorney search. But just to be clear, my request does not require Chuck, should we get to that point, to come back before us to approve the special counsel he appoints to bridge the legal services while we go in the search. And I guess maybe before I throw it back to you, if there's any questions, possibly.
I'll open it up to the floor. Any questions first on this agenda item?
Maybe it's not as much a question as just a comment about it for discussion, right? Is that I share Councilman Johnson's concern that because we're coming up so close to the end of the current contract that we have, I think it is prudent for us to give this direction to Mr. Stevens, just to ensure that we don't have any gaps in whatever form that may come to us. We don't know how all the pieces will land here at the end, and I think this is a smart way to make sure that we just don't have any gaps in this service that the town definitely needs. That's all.
Any comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Agree, Councilman Johnson. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. I've sent a couple emails about this question to Mayor James and Mr. Stevens on the town attorney search, and other than one update, I haven't heard a lot. So I do think that we need to seriously consider some sort of bridge option. If it's as simple as instructing our town manager to go ahead and find special counsel in accordance with the precedent that we've set here, then I'm totally aligned with that. I guess I'll just ask a question, and it may be a point of order question, policy related question, but Councilman Johnson, sounds like you said that Mayor James has an update. Are we allowed to just give that update during this conversation? I see that they're clearly related, right?
I believe it's related and it's in discussion, so she should use the opportunity to give us an update.
Great.
We won't be taking action.
Yep. Then I would ask Mayor James, do you have an update?
Well, we got one more.
Yeah.
Yep, no, understood, but I'm just part of my comment, just close my comment.
Gotcha.
I do have an update, and procedurally, I don't know if we need to close this out, move it forward, or if we want to hear what I have to say to, in any case, I think it is prudent that we do make sure we don't have any gaps on that. To take an official stance on this, it would have to come back next week, I would guess, because that's procedurally how it is done. But let me give my update first. This is the third update I have provided for you, and I would like to update you on the progress for a suitable firm to serve as counsel to our town attorney. As you know, our charter provides that the mayor, with the approval of council, may appoint a town attorney who is a member of the Maryland Bar and serves as the town's legal advisor. I just want to make sure that that is read into the record because that is what I am operating under. So when I was doing my candidate search, we had this really great discussion back in, July, and I heard what your requests were. You were looking for and I'm going to summarize. A firm that was able to have extensive experience in land use, zoning, planning, APFOs, water, sewer, plan reviews, subdivisions, all of the things that we're working on right now. And additionally, the firm should have many years of experience and know the basic municipal duties, such as Open Meetings Act, Public Information Act, Ethics and Conflicts of Interest, ordinance drafting, procurement and contract matters, municipal charter and codes, and rules of procedures. You also noted that you would like the firm to attend council meetings. So with all of that at my fingertips, I conducted a search. So for the past several months, I've reviewed legal representation from all 157 municipalities, along with someone that works for a county. I went and researched who they were, what their firm looked like, if they met these criteria. I interviewed several. I spoke with several mayors and several attorneys that weren't in the running about the other attorneys that I thought might fill this bill. And I narrowed it down to several strong possibilities. I have 2 more conversations this week to finalize, and then the next course of action would be to have the town manager meet with the firm that I believe might be the best candidate for our town attorney. And if it passes that next level, then I am optimistic, there's that word again, optimistic that next Tuesday I will have someone here. We can go into closed session to have a meet and greet and ask the legal questions that need to be asked to see if the appointment, my recommendation will get the consensus of council. So that is my update. Is that good? What do you have?
Questions.
Sure. What questions do you have? I'll
Thank
go
you.
with you first.
Thank you for the update. I was under the impression that you had a finalized candidate. And Tuesday, there's not going to be, I would like to establish, like, what does this interview process look like? Tuesday could be a meet and greet. There should be individual conversations set up with each council member to go over, whatever we want to call the vetting process. I'm glad to hear that Chuck will be able to vet or have a conversation with the firm when that time comes. I was under the impression of that we were done and you were done the interviews and we was ready on the 16th to do exactly what you just said.
We will be, but I have one more question for, I am not interviewing anyone new.
Okay. Follow-up.
It's the final question. So I will be speaking with.
Yeah.
This.
I would just, and I heard you say, like, you read into the charter, the mayor may appoint a town attorney subject
Right.
to the council approval, which, yes, that's the language. I will just, in the future, from November when I submitted my agenda item request, this is what we have staff for, right? Like, staff should go on the professional search, not saying that you're not capable. This is what the charter spells out today. It's your duties. You took it, charged on. Thank you. But, some type of, I don't know if we need to be involved in, each council member involved in the search, right? We don't need that, but
I
like
don't disagree with that at all.
but the vetting process and how do we, from where we started to what we want to see, right? I think is important. I appreciate the update. I would have wished and we got more thorough updates along the journey, but I think this is new for at least the 4 of us, right? I think you've done a search one time before, I believe, right? So you have a methodology that you use. But to keep it clean, and it has been clean, other than we just got the update. To keep it clean, it should be in the staff hands. And my future opinion of how we should operate.
I hope we never have to go through this again.
Well, yes, sure.
And one other thing I forgot to add is once I narrowed it down, then I went in even deeper, and boy, did I go down a rabbit hole. I went and did a search on social media. I did a search on newspapers. I did a search looking for pros and cons, red flags and accolades. So that was part of the process here. So that it was very time consuming. I learned a lot about different firms, and the one that will be brought forward is one that I think would be a good fit. And full disclosure, I don't have a relationship with this firm that I'm bringing forth. They are not friends. Don't have a phone number for them. So that kind of thing. It's not a personal connection there. So I just want to make that very clear on that.
One last
Sure.
request, if you could, you're wrapping up, you're finalizing your interviews. If you can get a note out to council on who this firm is, so we can do our research and be prepared on Tuesday.
Absolutely. You will have, before the meeting, you will have information so that you will
Not-
be able to,
not-
not be.
I
the
got
night
you.
of the meeting.
Yeah,
You will
yeah.
have it, yes, you will have it by the weekend.
All right.
So that you can do your, and that would be very helpful, because I am one person that, looked at 158 different municipalities in 157 in one county. So, yes, welcome any type of
Thank you.
input that is.
Thank you for the search. Back,
Thank
the point of my request was just to bridge services, but you gave a report. I think there's some people biting at the
Yep.
nail.
Yeah, so just a comment on your report, right? So the process that we'll go through once you bring someone for us to look at, right? Like I'm still skeptical that in the very short amount of time we have. I mean, you've talked to us about this in the past, right? You're the only member of the council that's done this before, right? And what you reminded us of is that was a very long process. And so now that you're going to be bringing us, right, a candidate firm for this, I think the process that we go through to all decide on that being our town's legal counsel, right, rather than a special counsel, I think that we're at risk of that process extending beyond the current contract that we have. And so that's why I'm really, I remain in support, I'm glad we are progressing, right? This is a lot of work and it's important work. But I remain supportive of the notion that we would give the town manager direction to bridge this potential gap, right? Or likely, right, gap. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the update. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure I've been accused of correctly sanding off edges, but I'm going to sand off a couple edges here because I am still a little confused. 157 municipality law firms or firms that have experience with working with municipalities and one with the county. You've narrowed it down to a list. How many folks are on that list, or how many firms are on that list right now? I heard that we have 2 more to talk to.
No, we're just.
Okay.
Not 2 more to talk to.
Okay.
Well, I am reaching out to 2.
Okay, so
that
these,
have already.
you've
they're in
already
the
talked to
finals.
them.
That-
Okay,
So I've narrowed it down to 2.
got it. Okay, so right now today, we have 2. You got to talk to them, do your final reports and all that. I understand this can't be answered on the open record. Just let me know if it can or can't. Has anybody talked about cost yet or anything like that? Are we not even at that part of the conversations?
I have.
Okay. Perfect. And again, if we can't get numbers, totally understand on the record. So we got 2 more coming this week. You are confident by next Tuesday, we'll have one of those 2 kind of selected as the finalist, another one, kind of on the back burner, whatever we want to call it. We'll go through the process of, Mr. Stevens will meet with them. We'll all meet with them. We'll go through that. I just want to kind of clarify Councilman Gutenberg's, statement with a question to you on your experience. How long do you see from that conversation Tuesday to us, if everything goes well, actually hiring that firm to be our attorney?
January.
Okay, so relatively quick. Okay,
When I, if I could just.
yeah, absolutely.
Interject. What you see with me is usually what you get. And I was very forthcoming with the firms and said, this is what we are working on now. These are areas of that you need to make sure you're proficient with. Do you
Sure.
have any problems with that? And are you willing to work with us?
Mhm.
And the time would be, I would like you to start in January. Well, at least
Good.
come into closed session in January 13th, get a contract, because council is the one that approves the rate, looks at the council. With, in my previous experience, when you have attorneys that are willing to work with other municipalities, they already have a contract. Most of these 157 attorneys or 157 municipalities, most of them have, or some of them have the same attorneys.
Yep.
And I'll give an example. Fred Sussman, when he worked for us, he worked for 5 different other municipalities. So they already have a contract. It would be up to council to tweak that count to.
Understood.
And so that's where I would see in January coming back and if approved, starting immediately.
Okay, that's great. And then final question for you, Madam Mayor, and for Mr. Stevens. So sounds like January 13th may be that realistic date, which is great to hear. Do we have any appetite from Mr. Golan? We may not right now. I would assume that there's going to have to be some sort of handoff or handover. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if 14 days is enough time or not. Has anybody kind of engaged Mr. Golo on if he'd be willing to do that handoff and what that contract looks like for his end of termination from the date that we have for him?
I have not had that conversation with
Okay.
him yet. No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Based on everything I heard, everything sounds fine to me, except I do have just one concern. And that is the timeline from when we would receive the read ahead to the time we would actually meet the individual. And I'm not sure that it's enough time for us to really look at and come up with good, solid questions. In other words, if we meet the person, what is it, next week or week after next, whatever, I'm not sure, how much of the background I can review. And I don't plan on doing, going over everything that you've already done. That's not the point. But I mean, solid questions that are not frivolous, that would pertain to us. I'm just concerned about that timeline. I would like to see at least the read ahead be 2 weeks before we actually meet the person. Or if we do the meet and greet next week, there's another meeting where we can ask tangible questions. I'm not sure that without the proper preparation, we can have a coherent conversation that's tangible.
Yeah.
Especially with the short time frame, and that's really the only concern I have.
And I validate your concern there. With any, since we've been going through this for the last 4 months, I would think that we all have questions that we have already just come to our mind that we would ask. What if an attorney can do this? Can you do that? And it's not specific to this one firm, I would think. I would think it would be a general question for anybody that was brought forward. You will have the information. It is not much to digest. It is going to be a resume per se. And then it's going to be the opportunity to discuss things. I know that one of your concerns may be wastewater treatment plant.
Hmm.
So you would be able to ask anybody that, any attorney on that. I don't know if they're specific on that. What time frame would you like? What would you be comfortable with?
I would be comfortable with like a 2-week time frame, but let me just give you an example. Like one of the things, and this is just off the top of my head, so it may be worded poorly. But like one of the things I would want to ask them is how much contract they have, experience they have in terms of conditions as it relates to municipalities. So that would be general to everybody, but I want to know specifically there. And I would like to ask them, give us some examples.
And
You
I
know,
have that for you.
And give us examples of that work and give me a case that you worked on it, those type of things. But I don't know what they've done. I want,
And
I
that's
have a range of questions. And so from bond issues to, things with law enforcement, environmental issues, you know, plan like, but specific questions that I would have that I could formulate better.
And I
Just
would
you.
think that's a fantastic way to go, but they should be able to think on their feet pretty darn quick on whatever question is given to them. Because I don't know if you envision giving them the questions for them to be prepared to answer, or if if you're struggling a little bit with you preparing questions, making sure you have
It's
all the
us
right
preparing
questions.
questions.
So,
You can give them in advance. I'm not opposed to giving questions in advance.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it just, there may be once I see the firm itself, there may be questions about that particular firm and their particular experience in a certain area I care about that I would like to question them on. That's all I'm saying. Other than that, I have no issues.
Okay. Any other questions
I would
for
like
me?
to close us out. This is my agenda item, if you may.
If you wanted to have the last comment, I just had one other.
Well, I
thing
don't have to
wanted
have,
say.
I'm not gonna be stuck on the last comment.
Okay.
First, that's up to, if, can I just go before I forget?
Yeah, please.
All right, a couple things, right? Like 7 days is not enough notice. Like, my thing is, the way in which we do things is important, right? There needs to be an established vetting process. You're also putting a lot of hope in this council approving your pick, right? Let me not say your pick, approving the attorney that comes before this body. That's a lot of weight you're putting on your shoulders, right? With 7 days notice and one night to engage and meet and greet. That, just being honest, right? And then 2, given that there's only 7 days notice, there's only one candidate coming forward, we got to have a contingency plan. And I believe it's prudent to make sure we have a contingency plan in place. Just not be like, if he's bringing, only because there's one coming forward in 7 days. I'm sure that any attorney you bring forward from municipal government has municipal operation background. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I wouldn't even think that you would bring a family law attorney before us to be our municipal government attorney. So just given that there's a 7-day time frame on the 18th, we want to meet and greet this guy or girl and do all the research. Which the research, like you said, I'm not really, we should have questions in our head. We knew this was coming. There should be continuity because you're putting a lot of weight on this council that they will approve the attorney that come before us. And I get, because we don't have an established process out there today of how this usually goes, and this is new to us. It's a lot of weight. So I am okay. Well, this would be tabled anyway. I will still hope that council will give direction to Chuck next week just to have a continuity plan. Don't mean that one's coming forward, right? But he has direction to go do something in case we start this process all over again. Just in case, right? Because we got to have a bridge in services. We got some things we're facing. Secondly, Councilman McCormick brought up a good point. Is there an appetite for Mr. Gullo to stay on as special counsel? I think that's a question we got to ask ourselves for a transfer of caseload. And I believe it's prudent that we take the knowledge that he has to transfer that over for whatever we deem a reasonable time frame between the attorneys. I don't think that's a question Chuck, Mr. Stevenson go ask, not knowing if it's going to pass. So I think that's a question we got to ask ourselves. I can tell you, I believe it's prudent for a transfer of knowledge at a reasonable time frame when the town attorney is appointed, in my opinion.
Seen it happen without, and it was not fun. I mean, it's really literally but it was not to this extent of what we have going on when this occurred in 2020.
Yeah.
So, or 2021. So as I have said in certain circumstances, and I will apply it to, and then Councilman Gutenberg, I will come to you. You've got to love the town more than you hate an individual. So personality set aside, what is in the best interest of our residents is what we have to put forward. And I say that a lot when I disagree with something, regardless of what it is. I've got to love what the end result is more than I hate what else the other thing is. So that's just something to put in the back of your head. It is the people that we are working for.
Yeah.
Personalities aside.
Yeah. No hate though.
Yeah.
Just a fundamental difference.
Yeah, well, but it's just, you've got to look at what is best for the town.
Yes, I agree. And I'm reasonably agree that during this transition, we have to be prudent with what we're facing with the transfer
Absolutely.
of knowledge.
We
So,
cannot have gaps.
Yeah, and I'm actually really happy to hear what both Councilman Johnson and yourself, Mayor James, just emphasized in those last two sets of comments. And I'm sorry, the reason to have it a contingency is exactly what you said, but I want to emphasize one part of why we need a contingency. And this is really probably a comment directed to you, Mr. Stevens, is that in what I've heard, right, is opinions from council members on what is an appropriate transition. But what we're going to need to hear, what I'm going to need to hear, is from the legal entity that is going to be taking on the transfer of casework. I want to hear from them on what they think and know from their professional experience is an appropriate transition. That has been throughout this process that we began back in July, as the mayor noted, has been my concern, is us doing a responsible transfer of duties between entities, right? And so, and I think I remain skeptical, right? I'll be optimistic that we can, that we will make a selection and do the things right. But it really at this point assumes a lot of things go right. And so I think it's really important for us to have that information as we make our determinations of exactly how we go through this complicated area. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Johnson, it's yours again.
I guess we gotta just ask council, is it prudent to still move this forward to next week? But in the meantime, given our town manager, that we gotta have a continuity plan in place, right? I mean, you're putting a lot of hope on our shoulders that we're gonna pass this. And it might, like you said, be optimistic, but you gotta be skeptical that if the plan don't go right, you gotta have an option.
As much research as I've done, I mean, you are going to pin these people as king.
But we gotta have a continuity plan in place, in my opinion. But I would defer to council because we had some dialogue over the last couple of days, you and I. Knowing that one candidate's coming forward, it's assuming, like what was just said, is everything's gonna go great. And it hopefully it does. But in case it don't, I think just the questions to council, do we want to move this forward the next week? And the direction would be to our town manager, go find the gap in services that could potentially occur. But that's a question to my peers.
So my question to Mr. Stevens is, do you, this falls under your purview for town, for special counsel. It is an employee to you. So it is operational in nature, but it's a budgetary impact on that. Do you need to get, and I don't know the answer to this, do you need direction from us to do this, or knowing it's all operations, you're working with special counsel and you know what needs to be done, that you continue doing whatever it is, so we don't have gaps. You've heard our concerns. And if there's a budget amendment that needs to be done, it's done that way.
Okay, so I think there's two discrete items that I need to peel back here. So I think the statement that you just asked me, absolutely. So for the benefit and the good of the organization, it would be prudent for me to ensure that there are no gaps. So I should probably be looking for some kind of legal services contract for a bridge in the event that council doesn't appoint a town attorney in time. Okay, I think that's separate and discrete though from our rules of procedure and the item that's on this agenda tonight, because I think that Councilor Johnson has brought something forward that council has to take a roll call vote on one way or the other. So I think the way you phrase the question, I'm parsing it out into two different actions.
So we've had the conversation. So in accordance with our rules of procedure, we can say, yes, there's an appetite for it to be put on as a standalone item next week.
Correct.
And that
I
would,
believe is the order according to our rules. Now, period. Now, I've also sat and listened to this conversation. So would it be prudent for me to ensure that this organization does not have a gap in legal services? Absolutely. And that seems like a function that I should take on regardless of the procedure that has to happen here because of the introduction of this item on the agenda this evening.
And Mayor James, if I may, the contract, it's special counsel, the town council. We are not asking, or excuse me, I am not asking. I hope council will follow my guidance on Chuck to come back and vet who he appoints as special counsel for this bridge services. Now, I'm going to assume, depending on that fixed term contract, what that cost is going to be. If it's over $20,000, it's a contract. But honestly, at this point, we should all agree on that services, and it's a consent agenda item. Of course, it's like a substantial, crazy amount that raises flag, but it will be no different than what we did for Mr. Gullo with he's Chuck's special counsel, obviously, whatever we got, but we just signed the contract because of the dollar amount. That's how I foresee this happening. I don't foresee us being involved in the vetting process at this stage because it's special counsel. It's just you bridging your gap in services and bringing a contract if it meets the $20,000 threshold to be approved by council. Is how I would see this based on the way the code is written.
And was that a question to me?
Well, she asked the question, would it be something that you can go functionally do?
I'm trying to process everything that you're saying. I think you're accurate. I mean, that's the way that the contract that we're currently operating under now is that it was a contract that came before this council because of the dollar amount. The threshold rose to a level that had to come in front of this council for consideration. So I believe what you just said is accurate. I need to really listen hard and go read the transcript, but on first hear, that's what I think.
But procedurally, do we need to give you direction on that? Because it's operational. So bringing this forward again, I mean, it is the only time that we would need to discuss this again is when you say, council, I've got a contract that exceeds $20,000.
Look,
What if three of us decided to say, no, we're not giving a direction? Then there's a gap. Now, we wouldn't,
what if
I would hope we wouldn't.
those two
do
letters
that.
go a long way with 5 of us?
I know, but I would hope we wouldn't do that. But my point is, we don't need to say yay or nay
Well,
to him doing
Mayor
these
James,
things.
if you agree with my agenda item, I think Chuck heard it loud and clear what the consensus is to go find Bridge Legal Services.
Well, it is, so there's no gap. Whatever way that we cannot have a gap.
Okay.
And that is,
If that was the point of my agenda item, so if you're okay with Mr. Steve, well, it's not if you want to take a roll call to move this forward to December 16th, we'll have the same discussion again with a motion, or staff heard council loud and clear. There's no need to move it forward. He has his direction. If you're okay with that.
I am, we don't need to give him direction at all.
I think we're just getting caught up on
We are, and
yeah.
I just want to make sure, because moving forward on anything other, this is, our baseline.
well,
if-
policy dictates operation. So the
Right.
contract, right?
So the only time that we would see this again is if it exceeds $20,000.
And I'm okay with that.
Otherwise, yeah, otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking about it. It would be as if he were finding a replacement for someone else. In the interim, hired someone else. He would not come to us, and special counsel does not report to us. So it is an employee that is under his purview, and that falls under operations, and we have to make sure that Mr. Stevens is making sure that the town is sound. Whatever employee it is, it shouldn't come to us unless it's town attorney.
So, Mayor James, my request was simple. I think Mr. Stevens heard us loud and clear. If it don't meet that threshold, we don't see it again. If it meets the 20,000 threshold, when it come before us, we know why. So I wouldn't get hung up on the operation or the budget amendment. He heard us loud and clear. We will not see this item again unless the contract is $20,005. If it's $19,800, well, you have your marching orders from the council, I think, to keep operations going.
So
I wouldn't get caught up on the direction word.
So with this agenda, about looking for guidance from you, how do we close this out without, we've had the discussion, we're not.
What this council has done in the past, based on our collective interpretation of our current rules of procedure, is you would do a roll call vote whether or not to move this forward to a future agenda. A future agenda. Could be next week, or it could be a date in the future. But that's what the rules of procedure say, and that's the only other time we've had something like this introduced, I think we've done it twice. The council has taken a roll call vote in each instance.
And if we say, and if the vote is no, because we don't need to give you direction, is that, that would be the.
The motion would be whether or not to move this conversation forward to a future agenda. What I'm hearing is that the conversation has run its course. There's a period at the end of the sentence. I've certainly heard council's intent. Okay. I'm not going to let legal services gap for the town. Okay. So I think someone could phrase the motion. Is there a need to continue this conversation at a future date?
There's no need for a motion. Just, is there consensus to move this forward? And Chuck heard direction from council. He's not going to deviate from the direction tonight, I would imagine. There's no need, as my agenda item, I will take a consensus not to move this forward, given the context of this conversation tonight.
All right, Madam Town Clerk, could you, we poll or get a consensus from the council whether they have the appetite to move this forward, this to a future agenda?
Councilman Gutenberg,
I gotta say, I'm confused by what you just said because
We're done with it.
I know, but what you just said is not what we were just talking about. So I don't understand
Can I
what
try
we're
to figure it
actually.
Please.
Yeah,
All right.
please.
Chuck has direction to go find a special counsel. If
Great.
that threshold meets the $20,000, $1 mark, he's bringing the contract back to us.
Great.
If it don't, he understands he got to find a bridge of gap in services for legal services. From the rules and procedures, the way it's written today, I introduced the item on the first meeting. It requires council consideration if it wants to move forward. Chuck has direction from this conversation to go do something. We don't need to bring this back next Tuesday
Okay.
to talk about it again.
Thank
So
you.
there's no
Okay.
consensus to move this forward, given the understanding
Correct.
of the
So
content.
he has received direction from our consensus and yeah, okay. Now I understand. I'm sorry. Thank
No,
you.
no.
Just procedural.
So do you want to see this on a future agenda?
No.
Okay, Councilman McCormick.
No,
Oh, sorry, I'm taking over your role there, Madam Town Clerk.
it's still no.
Councilman McCormick,
It's no for a third time.
Councilman Sampson,
No.
Councilman Johnson,
No.
Mayor James.
No. All right, well, that was a great conversation. that
Maybe
came
I'll do a
up.
better job next time.
You know what? You did great. All right. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Then that is, as we discussed, a very important item. All right. Now that we've all had a little break here, informational presentation on 5.4, and this would be you, Mr. Stevens.
This is me again, council, and I know you're all going to be saddened to hear that I wrote an incredibly lengthy staff report for
Yeah,
you on this
read it.
topic. I'm not going to read it to you.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm sad or
I'm That's why I got it to you so far. I actually got this to you before the holiday, I think, right before
Yes, you
Thanksgiving,
did.
right?
It was
Okay.
well written.
So you've got that as background of the foundation. But what I do want to do tonight is we have the first of our budget conversations, and there's going to be a handful of them over the next 5 or 6 months. I've said before, we've already started the budget. We started it on September 11th at our retreat. You set goals and priorities. That's when the budget really started. Tonight, you're going to hopefully provide feedback to the staff about some policy questions that we've prepared for you that were in your agenda packet. And then we're going to walk through in the presentation. And if the clerk could pull up the presentation now, the PowerPoint slides that were in the packet, that would be great. But we're going to walk through this. So there's a pretty comprehensive presentation that we're going to step through. And this really is going to be our official kickoff of the FY27 budget process. And I'll just go ahead and keep going because the first couple of slides, you don't really need to see them to follow along. So the agenda for this evening, what I'm going to cover is we're going to talk about budget fundamentals, some terms and definitions, the development process itself. That's what we're going to walk through over the next 4 or 5 months. The roles that each of us are going to play. I'm going to lay out the timeline with the key dates, and then I'm going to present to you some policy questions. And for each of those policy questions, I would like to get a consensus roll call, just like what we just did, so that Your budget team, which is the three folks at the table, and then our HR director, Monica Kennedy, that is your budget team, and I'll talk about that here as we go through the presentation. That helps us as we're putting pen to paper and starting to crunch numbers, that we'll always be able to go back to this conversation tonight and say, okay, well, what was the guidance and the direction from council? Where were their priorities? What came out of the retreat? What were the goals that they set? What were those policy questions? How did they answer those? And go back and we can look at the transcript and watch the video, and we can get a sense and go, okay, well, we should probably invest here and maybe take a little bit from here. That's really what these questions are going to help us do. They're going to give us those left and right lateral limits that are going to help us as we put the budget together. Okay. So first, as we get started here, thank you very much for the slides. And if you can advance all the way to the slide that says, let's jump all the way to the budget fundamentals. Yep, one more. There you go, right there. Okay, so at its core, a budget is a decision-making tool. And you've heard me say that before. It is the single document when I want to look at a municipality or a local government and I want to know where their priorities are. I look at the budget, because that's, people put their money where their mouth is. And so the budget is very, very key in identifying that. It's also how staff allocates limited resources. You hear that term a lot. When it comes down to the budget, it's really easy. When we're talking about limited resources, we're talking about money. Okay. And there's always going to be more ask than there is money to spend. Always. Okay. So that's where we, all of us, and that's the collective we, it's your staff and it's the council, we have to make very hard decisions about haves and have-nots. What programs and services are we going to fund versus which ones are we going to fund less or maybe not fund at all? The budget defines that for us. Next slide, please. It's also a tool that allows for financial control. It ensures that we don't spend beyond our means, and it represents our legal authority to fund programs and services. But just as importantly, the budget reflects priorities, which I've already talked about, and it helps us balance the competing interests and expectations in our community. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, keep scrolling. There we go. I'm sorry. I wanted the slide that talked about the 4 cycles, but you can stay right there because that's coming up. Stay right there. Yep. But there's four phases to every budget cycle. Okay. So like every government, we operate in a 4-phase cycle when it comes to our finances. So you've got 4 phases of the budget cycle. You've got preparation and submission, and then you have approval, and then you have execution and implementation, and then you have the audit. Okay. And then on this slide here, the budgeting versus accounting. It's important to understand the distinction between budgeting and accounting, or the audit piece. They're complementary but different functions. And you've heard me say a couple of times in this room already that really there's only 2 seasons in the finance world. They're either working on the budget or they're preparing for the audit. And that's about how it goes. So they spend 6 months on each, and depending on where you are in the year, that's what they're going to be working on. So your budget is forward looking. It's about planning, forecasting, and making decisions about how we're going to allocate resources in the coming year. It's flexible. It's based on our best estimates and projections, versus accounting, which on the other hand is backward looking. It records what actually happened. It records in great detail the real transactions and expenditures, and it follows very strict standards like GAAP and GASB. GAAP is Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and it must accurately reflect financial reality. Okay, that's the audit. That's accounting. So think of it this way. Budget is where we, management and council, work together to plan operations and set priorities. Accounting is where our finance team and our auditors track and verify that we followed through on those plans. We need both, and the budget gives us our roadmap and our spending authority, while the accounting and the audit tells us whether or not we stayed on course. Throughout this process, especially now as we're kicking this off, you're going to be focused on the budgeting side, but understanding how it all connects to the audit helps us understand why we track and report the things the way we do. Because when we get into this and we start talking about funds and moving funds and these kinds of things, it can all be very confusing and more than once I've heard an exasperated elected official saying, but it's all county or, in that instance, it's all county money. It's all town money. I don't like, why do we have to make this so hard? Well, okay, there's a reason for it. And it's really on that auditing side. Okay. And it'll make more sense as we go through it. All right, if you could go to the next slide, please. Terms and conditions. So before we get into the nuts and bolts, I just want to make sure that we're all speaking the same language. Next slide, please. When we talk about revenue, we mean all the income that funds our operations. So it's taxes, it's fees, it's grants, you name it. If it's money and it comes into the town, it's revenue. If you go look at our current budget, the FY26 budget on page 52 of the current budget, it actually lists all the revenue sources. Okay. So any money that comes into the town, regardless of its source, we call that revenue when we're building a budget. An expenditure that's the money that we're spending to provide services and or maintain our infrastructure. So that's the money that's being spent. Next slide, please. Allocations are simply how we distribute those dollars based on priorities, and balanced, and this is really important because this is something that we're going to strive to achieve every time I bring a budget before you. This is our baseline. It is our goal and our expectation to bring you a balanced budget. And what that means is that revenues meet or exceed expenditures in the budget, in the plan. Okay. Not just for this year, but sustainably, right? We don't want to sign off onto a program that, okay, maybe we can afford it this year or next year, but when we look out into the crystal ball into the future, we're going to get upside down. We don't want that. We want to make sure that what we bring to you is fiscally sustainable. Next slide, please. Okay. A fund. You hear fund a lot. We'll probably talk about funds more as we get into the budget, but especially in local government, a fund is how we keep everything organized. Think of it as a separate account to track specific revenues and expenditures. I can think of a real simple example right now. So we have a stormwater fund, okay? And the town collects a stormwater fee. So the revenue from that fee goes into that fund, and that money in that fund has to stay in that fund, right? It has to be spent on stormwater. I can't take stormwater fees and spend it somewhere else in the town. Yes, it's all town money. Yeah, I get that. But fund accounting is the basics of local government accounting. And because when taxpayers pay a fee or a tax is passed, and a tax is passed with very specific language that says, if you pass this tax, the money will be spent on these things. Think of your lottery. A lottery is a great example of this. State of Maryland has a lottery. The voters said, yes, we want a lottery. But there was language in that ballot question that said, if we have a lottery, the money will be spent on this. So those funds have to go for very discrete purposes. And it is our job as staff to track to the penny, every single penny of the money in all these different funds and line items. And so that's why fund is here on my terms and definitions, is because it's really important that we don't commingle or intermix the different, you'll often hear pots of money. People will say that it's a different pot of money. Okay, we can't do that, and we need to be very careful about doing that. Okay, next slide, please. Surplus and deficit. So you've got a surplus. What we're talking about there is whether or not we're bringing in more revenues than we spend or not. If we have more revenues, if revenues exceed expenditures during a defined period, that is a surplus. If expenditures exceed revenues, that is a deficit. Okay, let me pause right there for just a second. Any questions at this moment in time? Sir.
Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Just real quick on the balanced budget section, because I think it's important to go through this definition. I really appreciate you setting the left and right limit here. Not that I think this is a good strategy for the record, but you can, in theory, under Maryland state law, balance the budget with reserve funds as well, correct?
Correct. Typically the language is something like your revenues plus fund balance cannot exceed expenditures.
Yep.
And that is a true statement. That's not a truly balanced budget, but there that is allowed, because sometimes there are circumstances where you would want to be able to have that flexibility. It's our best practice. And like I said at the beginning, it's our intent. We want revenues to cover expenditures, and we want our fund balance, our reserves, to be used for other intended purposes.
Understood. I just want to make sure that was crystal clear, right? Because I think the intent, I speak just for myself, right, is matched, but just from a definition standpoint, I want to make sure we got that squared away. Thank you.
Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. Okay, so now that I've covered all the vocabulary, let's talk about how all this is going to come together. And if you go to the next slide, please. The development process starts with policy guidance from the council, because that sets the tone for everything. You have fiscal responsibilities, you have fiduciary responsibilities, you are responsible for the strategic vision of the town. So what you tell staff in terms of your policy guidelines is the foundation. That's why it is the first bullet on the first slide when we talk about development. That's why we've already started back in September. We started talking about it then. Okay. After that, we formed the budget team, and I've already told you who that was. The only person missing here tonight would be Monica Kennedy, our director of HR. And that's because, like any organization, our personnel expenses are going to be the biggest piece of that pie chart that we're going to show you at some point. What lays out the expenditures, that personnel wedge is probably going to be anywhere from 60 to 65% of our budget. That's why in every organization, the HR director is part and parcel of your budget team. And then we're going to prepare the calendar. We've already done that. We provided that to you on your November 18th meeting, which you've already approved. So you have the detailed calendar already. If you can go to the next slide, please. After that, we're going to send out instructions to departments, and with that, we'll give guidelines and forecasts. I have a leadership team meeting, I believe, next Monday. And following this meeting, I'm going to recap what we learned here tonight after our conversation to our leadership team. The leadership team has already been provided with their department worksheets. They've probably already started thinking and going into our financial accounting system, Tyler, and they probably started looking at the budget worksheets, and they're probably starting to get their heads around it. Next Monday, I'm going to tell them, here's the policy guidance that we heard from council. I've invited them to watch this meeting. I'm going to invite them next Monday to watch the recording. They need to hear it right from you. What's important to this council? You set the tone. Next slide, please. Then departments are going to build their expenditure requests from the ground up. Those will be consolidated with the revenue estimates, and then we're going to work through several rounds of review to create that balanced budget. We being the budget team, working with the department heads, I'll be meeting with the budget team. We'll be meeting with each department individually. We'll be looking at their budget requests, trying to understand what they need to sustain operations and provide services. Do they have a wish list? Are they asking for more personnel? Whatever the case may be. And we'll have that series of back and forth, and we'll go through it. We'll use our best judgment based on the guidance we get here tonight to attempt to accommodate those requests. In a perfect world, every budget worksheet that would come in would be fine. They would come in under the expected revenues, and we would have a balanced budget, and it would be wonderful. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I guess it could happen. Next slide, please. Okay, and then finally we get to the point where we're going to prepare the budget. The treasurer is going to be lead on financials. Administration will be lead on the messaging. We're going to present that budget document to you. Plan on presenting that to you in your March 6th agenda meeting. And then you'll be able to take, I'm sorry, presenting that to you no later than March 6th so that you can have it for your March 10th meeting. And then, of course, throughout the entire process, you'll be able to take public comment on the draft budget. Next slide, please. Okay. As we hear feedback from the council, the budget team will go back. We'll incorporate your feedback. We'll make adjustments until the budget reflects both your priorities and is balanced. Okay. And then we need to do all of that and have the budget, the fee schedule, and the tax rate set all by May 12th, 2026. Now, I know this year, this council had to come in newly seated and adopt the budget, and it was kind of late in the cycle. So You already learned a bad practice and I'm going to have to try to unwind that because these dates aren't made up. They're really, really important and the treasurer can speak to, in fact, why don't you speak to why May 12th? We don't just make it up.
So the county needs to know our tax rate, which needs to be reported to the state by the 20th. So we need to know how we're gonna, what revenue's coming in and how we're gonna spend it.
Yep. So everything's interlinked. We don't exist in a vacuum. So you already heard me say in February, we get revenue estimates from the state, and that's what starts our process. We owe, as part of the feedback loop, we owe information to the county, which then in turn owes it to the state. So it's really, really important that we hit the May 12th deadline, and we're going to strive to do that. We'll do everything in our power to give you the information you need to make informed decisions on the timeline that we're laying out for you. Next slide, please.
Can
Sorry,
can we
yes.
pause for a second on that? March 17th, aren't we supposed to have an all-day budget meeting?
You have an all-day budget meeting on March 17th.
Okay, so when you're looking at this, you said March 6th, we are present the budget document to council no later than, and then we begin taking public comment on the 10th, March 10th, and March 17th, we have our budget meeting. Is that a little backwards?
No, no, Mayor, it's not, because you're going to get a draft of a budget. That will be a public document. There's not going to be an agenda item that says public comment on the budget.
Okay,
But the budget's going to be in the public domain. And if someone wants to come and speak for 3 minutes about, oh my God, this is the worst budget I have ever seen, you are out of your minds if you adopt this, that's important feedback before we get to March 17th.
so it's public comment, not a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing.
Okay, okay,
It's
that's
it's
where I was.
opportunity for
yeah.
the public to start weighing in. They
Okay,
can start as
good.
early as March 10th. That's
Okay.
correct.
Fantastic. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
Do you have, oh,
I do, yes.
go ahead.
Two questions. We've already talked about this before one-on-one, but for the record, I did tell you I was going to ask these and, all that. So first question here from the development process standpoint, it is my understanding that last council and the last budget, the way that it was presented was that there were basically 3 budgets, not a la carte options, but 3 budgets, and it went to the finance committee. Is the finance committee involved in this process in any way?
They are. They have a different role this year, though, and I've already talked to them about that. So last year, I think the finance and, the treasurer was there, so she can speak to this with a little more detail. But I think they played a larger role in helping develop the budget.
Got it.
That is not at all what I'm asking of the finance committee this year.
Okay.
I want to give to them a draft budget before you see it. I want the finance committee to look at it primarily for that sustainability question.
Got it.
I've asked them to review our assumptions, right? Because in any budget, we're making projection and forecasts, and all of those are based on assumptions that we make. So it's always great to get especially a second set of professional expertise eyes on that to validate our assumptions. So I've asked them to validate assumptions, look at our revenue projections, but most importantly, tell us, do they think the budget is sustainable? Okay. Are those revenues going to cover expenditures into the future?
That makes sense. Thank you. Yep. And then the second question, when I see this a la carte, I understand we're supposed to have the 50,000 foot view, and I think the questions in here ask 50,000 foot view questions. When we're talking about a la carte, are we looking more like last cycle's model where you're going to present budgets that are completed, but they're 3 different budgets? Or is it going to be, hey, here's a skeleton model, and for example, one policy difference is here. This is what it would end up costing. If we did not approve that policy, this is what the budget would look like.
So I think what you're going to see is something more akin to your latter statement. I
Got
don't
it.
plan on bringing you 3 budgets. Now, within
Perfect.
the budget, there is a capital improvement budget.
Yep.
Okay, but there's one town budget, just like what you have, that you can go to the website and pull down. And so what I think you can expect is we're going to bring you a budget. Ideally, it's already balanced,
Perfect.
but you're going to look at it and you're going to say, but Chuck, wait a minute, you didn't fund this, and I really wanted you to fund this. Tell me about this line, and why didn't you fund this program?
Got it.
And I'm going to say, okay, well, based on what I heard, based on what we talked about at the retreat, based on goals and priorities, here's the decisions that we made, why we made them. Here's the cost savings we got from that. Here's where we put that money elsewhere in the budget, right? And we'll have that dialogue.
Great. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Moving on.
Okay, let's talk about our roles then. Next slide, please. Okay, and I think a great segue. We've already just talked about this. So your role as council is to do exactly what you're already doing. So set the vision, establish the policy, set priorities, make sure the budget aligns with your priorities, okay? And then hold us accountable for fiscal responsibility. Hold us accountable for those assumptions, right? A budget, when you're building it, is based on a lot of assumptions. So if we've got something in the budget and it doesn't make sense, ask us, well, how did you get to that starting point? Okay, well, we made an assumption that, and then we'll talk through how we got to where we got to. Next slide, please. Town manager role with the staff is to handle the operational side, putting the information, options, and recommendations in front of you. And then once you make those decisions, we are responsible for implementing them. Again, that's that plan and then implementation. All right, next slide, please. Okay, let's look at the next couple of months. Next slide, please. Okay, December, we're here. This is it. Budget policy guidance conversation, we're having it. January, I already said the departments are going to start working on their worksheets. February, we're going to get those state revenue projections and start the departmental reviews. In March, we're going to give you the first draft budget, and then we're going to have that workshop on March 17th. Next slide, please. April is going to be reserved for any additional work sessions and any refinements that we need to make based on what comes out of the 17th. And in May, we plan to finalize and adopt the budget no later than May 12th. So that's all the background of the foundation. And now we get to the meat of the conversation, which is those policy questions. So if you go to the next slide, please, and then the next one. Okay. I don't know if you just noticed, but Michelle just pulled out a scorecard. She's got a scorecard here. No, this is great. I love that you did this. She's got 11 policy questions written and she's got 5 members of council written, and we just want to lay it out there. Okay. So the first thing we want to talk about are reserves and the fund balance. And again, I'm not going to go deep into these because I think that the staff report really tried to go pretty deep, and I tried to give you examples from this year's budget to go back and look at. So for the questions, if we can address it just on its face, I would prefer we do that. But the first question before you is actually a bad one to start with, because ideally I wanted to have the Finance Committee's recommendation for a policy. They met today. They had additional questions for the treasurer, so they're still not quite there yet, but they have committed to trying to have their policy recommendation done and ready to come in front of council by January. So that said, it is still the staff's recommendation that we shift and start establishing a reserve and fund balance policy that's more responsible, that does the things we've already talked about. It creates the different contingency line item funds that you'll be able to see what's there and what it's intended to be used for, and that we meet the GFOA. GFOA is something, I'll define it. It's the Government Finance Officers Association. They are the body of experts that make the recommendations and provide guidance and direction to financial professionals for government entities. I think internationally, I know nationally for sure, but it's an international organization. Following their standards, recommendations, and best practices is absolutely a good thing, and it's something that we want to do. You'll notice in our budget that we have the GFOA award. That is a very high standard to meet, and it's something that we strive to do, and we do that here, and we're very proud of that. We want to continue to do that. They recommend that your unassigned fund balance reserves, their recommendation is 16.7% or 2 months of your operating. Okay. The town currently is holding more than that, and we're going to recommend to staff that council give us the latitude to adopt the GFOA standard as we go into building this budget. What that's going to do is it's going to take money out of reserves and allow us to use it in other areas, because we're going to be reducing some of the money that we're holding on to in the savings account, essentially. So are there any questions or discussion about that?
They waiting on you, Mayor James.
Um, I'm sorry, I was thinking. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm in support of the GFOA minimums. But I remain, I think throughout the discussions we've had on this, my concern with the unassigned fund balance is that we have better rules set up around them, right? Like when we talked about the definitions a few minutes ago, right? The issue with the fund balance that we have to be wary of is with holding a large fund balance like that. If a council wanted to build a $1 million Ferris wheel out on the front lawn, they could, right? And so that's the part that concerns me about that. So I'm really happy that we're moving forward with the work that the finance committee is doing around establishing these reserve funds that will help us to I think long-term, like deal with some of the things we have coming up with infrastructure. So I think that's a really a good place to be with staff recommendation, and I'm in support of that for the scorecard. Go
There
ahead,
you
mark
go.
me down. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Larson. So I did get to listen to the first 75% of the Finance Committee meeting today. I didn't listen to the back quarter yet. But I just, for clarification, when y'all were talking, and we had one gentleman bring up the concern with, hey, if there's a true natural disaster that's unfortunately already afflicted La Plata in the past, was this the conversation topic here, the change from the 50% to the 16.7% recommendation, or was that something else? Yes.
Restrict how you can use them, so we have them when we need them.
Understood. I guess let me try to rephrase the question because I did not understand the individual's concern. And I didn't know if maybe you being in the room, you heard it a different way. So the concern I heard was if we assign them to a point where the rules are almost too stringent and we have something really impact us and we don't have enough in that specific reserve fund that we can pull from, does that put the town at risk? That's how I heard it. Again, for the record, for the scorecard, I'm in support of this change as well. But I just want to make sure, did I hear that gentleman correctly?
So the question.
Okay.
With the policy, there is some, and also
Got
the
it.
reserves are for that incident. You have other, like the unassigned.
Perfect.
balance
Yep.
To use it if those reserves don't cover it.
Yep. And for the record, makes sense to me. Just want to make sure I understood his concern. I'm in support.
Councilman Sampson?
Yes, I only had one question. Would this action impact, and if so, how, our credit rating?
It should not. Actually, historically, the town has never relied on a credit rating for any financing. We've had never had an issue with that. But this should not have any impact at all.
Councilman, and are you in favor of going to the 16.7% GFOA
Yes.
for the scorecard? Okay. Councilman Johnson.
And before to elaborate a little bit more, I actually think it would enhance our credit rating because having an established policy
Mr. Fine.
that we could provide, because the policy not only sets the minimums, the most important part of the policy draft that we provided to Finance Committee talks about how we're going to replenish the reserves when they dip down below. That is the most important part of the policy. So having a policy like that that's been codified and adopted by a council, I think will actually enhance our credit worthiness because we can demonstrate fiscal responsibility and stewardship and transparency and all the things that we want to be as a government. So I think it will actually help us, sir.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the policy question, especially as we are defining those reserves. And it's not just a blanket $52 million sitting out there up for grabs. I think the other concern to Councilman McCormick part is that we always have the flexibility to amend the budget, knock on wood, should something crazy happen. But I do appreciate the fact that we are now defining where the money is going to be appropriated for future use. Yes, I'm in support. We'll figure it out by the 11th policy question.
One comment is, so I've been through this budget for 8 years now. This is my 9th budget. And I have heard in the past, well, we can just grab it from fund balance. I know, you and I both. So I love that the fund balance isn't going to be a well where we can just keep going at, that it actually has a unassigned fund balance, that it actually has a purpose for going for reserves and all that. So that is why, one of the reasons I'm in favor of adopting the GFOA's 16.7% minimum reserves.
Excellent. All right, thank you, council. So we've got the scorecard. That was question number one, and I believe that was probably one of the more challenging questions of this evening. So thank you for that. Number two, should reserves be used only for one-time cost, or may they also be used for ongoing costs? Now, I asked this question. Staff will staunchly encourage you to only use reserves for one-time costs, okay? And any financial expert, anybody in the financial industry that you talk to will tell you that reserves should only be used for one-time costs. The law does allow, though, for that opportunity if there is an extreme circumstance that you might have to use your reserves to cover operating. But just as a policy question, as we go into drafting the document, I just want to be clear with the council. Should staff plan on only using reserves for one-time costs?
Councilman Gutenberg?
Yeah, I'm in support of the one-time cut. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilman McCormick?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is what we talked about earlier with the balanced budget. Again, going down the similar question that the finance committee was kind of talking about today. Understand we can always amend the budget if something extraordinary happens, but if we're asking a less nuanced question, a straight up, hey, policy wise, we're going to use the reserves, it should absolutely 100% be for a one-time use.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson?
And just for my clarification, does the one-time cost also means the same thing as a fixed term cost? So in other words, if we have a project that spans, say, 8 months or a year and a half, would that be included? Just for my clarification.
If that project is not continuous, not as long as you're not going to, so the project, yes, but maybe the maintenance or maintaining that, we've got to make sure we include that in the operating costs.
Okay, got it. So my answer is yes.
Thank you.
I'm in support of it. And I'll look at the one time, just because we're here and like there's no better time than the present, to buy it, whatever the potential buy-in for LEOPS, that one-time cost, but the ongoing cost will come from a department operating budget. Okay.
Madam Mayor, just a point of order. The council's rule of procedure, section 6.3, item D states that, members will be recognized before commenting. I'm not sure if Councilman McCormick is aware that he's making audible comments in affirmative as other people are speaking. It's just a little disruptive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Councilman Johnson, you were.
I was a yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
And I am too. And isn't that recommended by the GFOA too? Okay, good.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, moving on, council. Revenue philosophy. So when costs rise, and they are for everything, and we're all aware of that, the town is affected just like any consumer, any resident living in our town, as they're seeing costs at the grocery store or whatever. We are also feeling that pinch on all of the things that we buy. Should the town prioritize increasing revenues, which is taxes or fee rates, to maintain service levels, or should we prioritize cutting services to avoid rate increases?
Oh, happily put that one down there to you. Start, Councilman Gutenberg.
Yeah. So I think, what I'd like to know, I think in a later question, we talk about essential services versus services. And in my view, I would draw a line in there about, I would not want to cut essential services, but I would be open to discussing, limitations on non-essential services, rather than raising taxes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, I think Councilman Gutenberg touched on it, right? This is, again, another nuanced, charged question, but upfront policy wise, I will share. I will never be in favor of raising taxes, and therefore I am absolutely in support of cutting services.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
Okay, and so just for my clarification, so you're saying what is the priority, correct? So in other words, the priority could be, we will look at cutting services first, But then if, depending on the situation or essential services, if a rate increase had to happen, we would do that. So it's the priority.
Correct. Yeah, so as we're drafting this budget, we will look to not raise taxes based on what I've heard so far. We would look to either reducing or eliminating non-essential services.
Okay. All right. Yes, I'm in favor of that.
Yes, I'm in favor of that too. Like prioritize non-essential services first. My one caveat, and this is not saying I'm, raise the taxes. If we're going to do it, don't nickel and dime every year. Do the rate appropriate to sustain the service. Sort of back to in May when we talked about the enterprise fund, we should have just raised it to what we know the cost is going to be versus doing 3% this year and 3% now. But first, like you said, the priority is, non-essential services.
And I am in favor of that. The first course of action should always make sure that our essential services are protected. I am not in favor of raising taxes unless it is absolutely the last course of action on that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, next question. Should user fees be set to recover full costs or should they be subsidized through the general revenues? And I know I put some examples in your agenda packet there. So here, let's talk about user fees in the general fund, not fees associated with some of the special or enterprise funds. Because I think that's a separate question later on.
Councilman Gutenberg, you know what? I kind of feel like this is a really hard test on some of these. I've got my answers though. Councilman Gutenberg.
So with regard to user fees and full costs, I think for user fees, because we're not talking about the enterprise fund here.
Correct.
So we're talking about the fee schedule. I think, and I think about a lot of things that go on in the planning area and things related to that. And I think it is appropriate for user fees to fund the full cost where possible of those things rather than through the reserve funds.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, I know I keep saying it, but it's a nuanced and charged question. I think that situations are situational, so I can't get a definitive answer here. What I can say, maybe this will help with the scorecard, is if we were to run in our general revenue a surplus, I think it is appropriate to use surpluses to offset personal costs in the fee schedule. However, if we run a perfectly balanced budget, meaning $1 in, $1 out, then yes, I do think that fees should pay for themselves. I know that's probably the worst answer to hear. I don't know how you'd score it, a half a point, a -2, but again, I think I've been clear on the record that, hey, if we do run a surplus when it comes to our overall, for lack of a better term, like admin budget, then yeah, we should be able to use that to offset costs.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
My answer is yes, the fee should cover the cost.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Johnson.
Likewise, the town don't pay my electric or cable bill, right? So that's the example I would use for user fees that, you're requesting a service and you're to pay for that service.
And I am also, I think that full recovery at full cost should be there. We should not be subsidizing others, people don't use that fee, so. All right.
Thank you. Moving on. Service levels, and I think we've already touched on this one a little bit. Should all current services be maintained regardless of budget constraints, or should only essential services, water, sewer, roads, public safety be protected?
Councilman Gutenberg.
Question.
Yeah.
You want to go?
Go ahead.
No, not about the, sorry, was that the same conversation topic for enterprise funds? Because it's only for the same, I know we talked about user fees first. Could we just take the same consensus on enterprise?
I think there's a separate question about the enterprise funds coming up. There is,
Sorry,
but
I'm looking at
it's-
it in the same,
it's enterprise fund specific.
okay, but it was only for the subsidized thing. Okay, gotcha. Very well, sorry.
Okay. Councilman Gutenberg.
Protection only of the essential services. I would be willing to compromise on the others.
All right, thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
Sorry, I'm still reading it. Yeah, Chuck, if you don't mind, like we read through this. Can you give us like a stand off the edges real quick here? Should all current services be maintained regardless of budget constraints, or should only essential services be protected? Like, I think yes, essential services, of course. Are we talking about like a crazy out of left field example here with a budget constraint? What exactly are we talking about? Like we're just not balanced and therefore we have to cut something?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So at
Yeah, I
some
think we
point,
answered. Okay.
yeah, let me give a verbal response instead
Sure.
of just murmuring, but yes, sir, that's correct. The way you
Okay.
articulate.
Then yes, I agree with Councilman Gutenberg. Yes.
Councilman Sampson?
Yes, for, only essential services.
Councilman Johnson?
Maintaining essential services is a priority.
And I am the same. Essential services should be protected.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, we're halfway done, council. Thank you. Is the council willing to reduce or eliminate current service levels if necessary, or is staff going to strive to keep all existing services?
All right, Councilman Gutenberg.
So I'm willing to reduce or eliminate current service levels, right? With the caveat above, right? Like we're protecting the essential services, but other than that, yes, I'm willing to adjust on those. Yep.
Councilman McCormick.
Yes, I'm willing to reduce and eliminate current services, provided that we protect the essential services we just voted for above.
Thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
Yes.
Councilman Johnson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am, yes.
Excellent. All right.
Number 7.
All right, we're going to move into a new topic field now. We're going to talk about capital and debt. So question number 7, and in your packets, I defined these terms. So I'm asking council, so capital projects, now think about the capital projects, these are the big ones, infrastructure maintenance type things. Should they be funded primarily through pay-as-you-go, which essentially means we're paying out of pocket, through grants, or through debt financing? And there were some good examples in there of the current budget. So this is really just me trying to get a sense of council's appetite for debt service.
Councilman Gutenberg.
I always prefer pay as you go, but I am, because of the big projects that we potentially have before us in the upcoming year, I am open to debt financing because that can help us maintain a balanced budget and not have to, like scrape out of, the fund balances that we maintain as well, right? Like that would take the potential new reserves down, right? So, yeah, I'm open to debt financing.
Thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
I was just, yeah, I remember.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. Yeah, I think, again, situations are situational. So priority wise, from a priority score point, right, pay as you go is what I would say number 1. However, I don't think it's any secret what we got coming up and what we will most likely be debating in FY27 and frankly FY28. And therefore, debt financing, provided it makes sense for La Plata, has to be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
Pay as you go with debt financing as necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, my comments could be remain flexible in how we approach it, right? Like the example of the upgrade, like we paid the $7 million up front, but then we refinanced the loan to replenish the reserve. So I think we should remain flexible because you don't know what that bill is going to be.
Thank you. And I'm a blended approach because why pass up an opportunity like USDA?
Yeah.
And taking a 1.75% debt loan on there, even though we could pay that back, but I don't want to go into debt when we have money to do. So it would only be if it's prudent on that. So it pay as you go unless we get the debt financing that is very low cost. Then I think if the finance committee and our treasurer thinks that's the way to go, I support that.
Excellent. Thank you. For aging infrastructure, should the town pursue proactive replacement or reactive repair?
That's like you're lobbing one at us.
I
Let's
think
see
you
how
know
we
the
do on
question
this.
too.
You know what? I'm just going to go straight. I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to go with Councilman Johnson first because he's so anxious with this one.
Yeah, I think we
There's
need
a
to.
wrong answer.
Oh, well, my approach would be to be proactive. I think write the check, right? But hopefully you get to a point where we don't have to write the check because we're being proactive. Okay, that was a good answer. I passed. All right, good.
Councilman Sampson.
Proactive.
Excellent.
All right,
Thank you, sir.
Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, sorry, folks. FY 27 specifically, and I know this is going to be a little bit of a weird answer here, but just stick with me. We do have to be reactive right now, specifically because there are issues that we have not solved. And I think once we get to what our director of public works, maybe our director of planning, our experts would say, okay, hey, we're in a stable position now. We can start to move to proactive planning 100%. I will just share, I'm concerned, and we'll need more reports and all that as to, can we even be proactive in replacement right now when we have so many things on the docket that we need to replace today? And we all know a bunch of them right off the top of our heads. So I get it. Yes, proactive, of course, should be the policy we pursue. I just don't think for FY 27 that's something that's realistic considering what we have on the books.
Thank you.
Councilman Gutenberg.
Yeah, I always believe proactive replacement is the more prudent, cost effective.
And I think proactive combined with a low debt financing, I think we've got a winner there. So
Okay, council, I could probably guess what your answer is going to be on this one, but let's talk about compensation and staffing of the most valuable asset that this town has, and that is your workforce, our amazing town employees. So should employee compensation lead or match regional market rates, or is lagging behind market rates acceptable?
I'm going to start with Councilman Johnson again.
Oh, thank you. You know, the most important thing to any employee is the compensation package, right? Not necessarily chasing the dollar. Because I would be open to matching the regional rates today. But I look at how long it took us to find a senior planner, right? Should we be leading the market in expertise of the operations? Not a fan of lagging behind the market, right? We got to be attractive. And the town's a great place to work. So I don't know where I say lead, but I'm open to just matching it. I only say lead because of the amount of time it took with the senior planner, and you got to retain, professional top level staff.
I understand.
No lag, just lead match. No lag at all for me. Lead and match.
Councilman Sampson.
I say leading.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
I think it has to go department by department. I think there are certain departments that it makes financial and prudent sense to potentially lag. I think in some it makes sense to match, and I think in some it's essential that we lead based off the size of our town. I know it's probably the worst answer, but I would say probably match is my first priority, lead is my second, and lag certainly on the table is third.
Thank you.
Councilman Gutenberg.
Yes. So my preference would be that you're preparing a budget that matches regional markets. However, right, I think that town staff should look at areas where we have staff that are lagging the market, and those considerations should be brought to us so that we can fix that to get us to match. I also think what we experienced with the planning department as the good example, with how long that took and the impacts that had on us of not having that resource. I would look for staff to come to us and tell us where there are areas where we think, based on our experience, that matching market value, our market value may not be assessed correctly, and we need to go to more of a lead in certain strategic areas where it's important to the outcomes that we're seeking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I think we are the Cadillac of compensation for this area as far as with healthcare and things of that sort. And that is attractive to many. The pay, we're in a market that is tough. So if you really compare apples to apples, you're comparing it, you should be comparing municipality to municipality of said size. But we've got that proximity to DC, so people would rather go up the road just a little bit to get more. I'm really going to say that, and this is a cop-out answer, and I'm sorry, but I think it's going to be really, what do you need to do as town manager to attract the right person? It could be very much situational, going into different departments, but I would hate to go in and say, okay, our great team, we are cutting the benefits so that they match the national average. that's tough because that is a huge benefit. So benefits and pay, if you combine them, and many people don't, but if you combine them and look at what DC is paying for money, but benefits, we may be close when you put our benefits in there. So I would say it's at your discretion. I would support what you did for recruiting.
Can I just follow up?
Absolutely.
Because I don't know how, I don't think I heard anybody say leg. Well, excuse me. Third option for Councilman McCormick. Is it prudent to do a compensation study to make that decision? Or like, I'm just curious, like, what would be the most appropriate thing to do? Right? I know we want to attract staff, and to your point, yes, today, if I go apply for a job, I'm looking at the total compensation packet, RSUs, healthcare, all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, people are attracted to their base benefit today.
Exactly.
And that's what we should be worried about. And I don't know what the appropriate way of doing that.
Yeah, we would do a market analysis, a compensation study. I don't know when the last time one was done here for the town. I think in 22 or 23, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's probably certain job skill sets that are due to be looked at again.
And that's what I would say to the points that was raised, that we might be leading in certain departments, but where we are not leading, how do we get to that part where we are attracting the staff and retaining the staff we have? Not at no point will we pull back because we're over leaning and lagging. So I guess there's a two-pronged approach. Get to where we need to be and make sure the staff that we have today is where they should be based on the market analysis. We'll probably be responsible.
And I would recommend we never do what we did in 2022. It's just, it just put everybody up to the 65th percentile. That took a hit on us. And we were doing that because we wanted to make sure we were competitive. And some had a little bit of a change. Some had a big change. But again, you have to weigh in the benefits that we have, especially the health benefits, which are amazing. So all of that has to come in on that. But I would defer definitely to you as the hiring agent out there, and I would support whatever you brought to council on that.
All right, thank you. Okay, now moving on to those enterprise funds. Question number 10 asks, should the water and sewer rates fully cover all operations, maintenance, replacement, and capital improvements, or should some costs be subsidized from the general fund? Now, it's important to note, and I even put this on your slide for you because it really is important to note that the enterprise funds are designed to operate like a private business. So they are expected to cover all of those expenses. That is the expectation. And if they're falling short, taking money from your general tax revenue is highly frowned upon, and in some instances can even be illegal. So I do want to ask this question because I just want to make sure that I have the guidance from council. Is it your expectation that the enterprise funds operate as enterprise funds, as independent businesses that cover their own expenses?
Councilman Gutenberg.
Okay. Yes, I think they should operate as you just described. However, I think in the terms of in this budget, a perception that I have is that there has been over the years, and I think this is a common problem for municipalities, there's been avoidance of certain capital investments. And I think that puts us in a place where we may have to use some funds for capital projects to get our infrastructure to a place where we can be self-sustaining as an enterprise fund. And so while I'm supportive of exactly how they're intended to operate, I'm also aware that we may need to make investments that go outside that bound for some period of time. And I'd like to understand what staff believes that is.
Thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, well said, Councilman Gutenberg. I mean, totally agree. The short answer to this question is yes, with obviously that caveat on the back end.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
Yes, I just had a question just to clarify. 'Cause I remember from the time we first came on board till now, we've had or I've heard different responses. So can we definitively say that right now, all of the enterprise funds, do they cover themselves with no infusion from any outside source as of right now today? Is that a true statement? Just for my clarity.
So the water fund, the sewer and the stormwater are covering, the revenues coming in are covering all the operating costs. The issue is, do we have enough reserves to cover the future capital costs? Sanitation was lagging a little bit behind, and that's why we added the extra can fee for this year.
Okay. So my answer is, yes.
Thank you.
Councilman Johnson?
Thank you. On face value, yes. I will just go back to, and I'm still Sampson's comment from the beginning of the year. Can we get to a point where the enterprise funds are so far projected that we're not nickel and diming every year? Like we project the cost of doing it for the capital improvements, and that's the rate. Like, can it be stabilized versus every year we're coming back? And it might be a time where we have to come back, but adding in that capital improvement cost or factor to it, I think would make that conversation a little bit easier every year when we talk about the fees.
Thank you.
Yes. And with something to think about too, is it, do we look towards the developers, people who want to come in now to see if we need to update our connection and capacity
Impact
fees again?
fees.
And, because we're growing. And if you go 30 years ago, it was the handshake and sure, you can come in and all of that. Well, we have growth and we're not meeting the needs right now we're doing operational, but our capital. So where do we bridge that gap there? So it definitely should be, covered, self-sustaining.
We have the major facility fee that's supposed to support the water and sewer. We don't have that in stormwater, but at least for the water and sewer, the developers are paying for what the town needs to increase its capacity.
So if I can ask a clarifying question, why don't we charge for stormwater to developers to recoup that?
That would be an operating cost that would needs to talk with Public Works and the stormwater management. One of the biggest problems we have is the MS4 requirements that came on a few years ago
Right.
that we didn't have before. And the town wasn't prepared for that. The ARPA funds helped subsidize some of that, but we have a lot more to go.
And when a developer comes in, they have to pay stormwater fees, right?
I'm not sure if it's directly for the developer. We charge a stormwater fee to maintain the stormwater infrastructure. As far as the developer, I'm not aware of that. That would not be a question I could answer. That'd probably be more for Public Works or
And
the
it's,
stormwater.
I hear it's like an impact fee is what we're.
That's your major facility fee, impact fee are the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we collect an impact fee for stormwater. We collect on the utility bill as a stormwater fee. So I don't know that developers are paying it. I believe that the individual property owners, when they get their utility bill, are paying that stormwater fee.
Is that, and I'm just asking if is that a normal thing or is that something that we can look? Because if it's a cost that is, the homeowners absorbing, what about, those that are building in? I know they have to pay for
Yeah,
stormwater.
everybody has to pay for stormwater. Larger properties, commercial properties have a larger fee than a normal residence does.
Okay.
There's a, what is it called? An EIU or UI unit per, I'm not the best person to answer that. But there's like a per unit that if it's not a residence that the business pays for the per unit based on the size of their impervious surface.
Okay. So my clear answer would be yes, that the funds should be covered by that.
If I could just have a follow-up comment on this. So not for tonight, right? But related to this, there are the answers to some of these questions are different when you talk about the special tax district in Heritage Green versus the other areas of the town. And I think we're going to need to have discussions both on the planning commission, but really here, because I don't think the planning commission would actually make this determination, but for other areas of the town that have been previously annexed in years past, where there are developers that are lining up with preliminary plats and things to come in, those areas have not been designated as special tax zones. And so we have policy questions that I think are going to have to be answered about the way that infrastructure, that future infrastructure impact is addressed. We're going to address some of them, I think, through an APFO, but the real impact in town residents and looking at equity of taxation across the town is there is a difference in the way the Pine Grove development pays for infrastructure than the other areas. And we're going to face real hard questions on that related to other large developments that come in, right? And so that's probably just a thing for a future discussion that's related to this.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and our last question.
Okay, last one is question number 11. Should the budget include a 3 to 5 year projection for major revenue sources and expenditures, or only focus on the upcoming fiscal year?
Councilman Gutenberg.
I love 3 to 5 year projections, in particular related to the capital improvement projects, right? And I think we would only be benefited by that by having those kinds of projections. And I think the things that the town staff is working on related to reserve fund policy too kind of plays into that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Corman.
Yeah, Chuck, you and I have talked about this, or excuse me, Mr. Stevens, you and I have talked about this a lot, 3 to 5 years for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Sampson.
My take is that we should have a 10-year projection with 3 to 5 year milestones. And I'm thinking specifically of things that take years to get done, like the wastewater treatment plant, like environmental upgrades, like additions to certain projects or buildings or whatever. So I would like to see a 10-year projection. Now, I know that's hard to do, and those numbers would change, but 3 to 5 years milestones up to 10 years. So I'm not in favor of the question as it stands as a whole, because I think I think there's certain things that you have to plan out, because there's certain things we'll plan today that none of us will be around for, that'll impact 8, 10 years from now, and at least have a plan, some kind of plan. It may not be the best plan. Projections may fall through, but at least something or a baseline to operate from.
Okay,
Councilman
thank you.
Johnson.
Thank you. I support long-term.
And I am at least a 3 to 5 year outlook. And I have to say, for the record, Karina, you've done an amazing job getting the town staff to start looking differently. We've always done kind of like the 1, 2, 3 year projection, but when you're talking about something, when it's a building and all of our vehicles, just having the 1 year, maybe 2 year plan does not paint the picture that we need for planning in the future. And you've done an amazing job it hasn't been easy, but getting them to project what's going on with that. So kudos to you. All right. And that is it on that.
Yeah, thank you, council. That was a wonderful conversation. We appreciate the direction. It's really going to help the staff as we start to build this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item is 5.5 Historic Preservation Commission appointments. And I'm going to put this to my colleague, Councilman Gutenberg.
Okay. Yep. Very good. So I think the council obviously has seen the staff report that's there. And what I'll say is, we had 2 positions open on the Historic Preservation Commission, with Ms. Mudd leaving the commission earlier this year. What we did was we had 3 candidates actually for 2 positions, and the members of the Historic Preservation Commission had a small subcommittee that interviewed the candidates for these positions. Ms. Jane Hobbs, who is a longtime member and actively involved for quite some time with the Historic Preservation Commission, as an alternate member most recently. She is going to be is who we're nominating tonight for the voting member. So we're happy to do that. The other position is for the non-voting alternate member. The committee, the subcommittee, excuse me, the consensus was that we went with Miss Kathy Hancher. She is a lifelong resident of the area, but she grew up here in La Plata. Her whole youth was spent here in town. She has deep family roots here, and she also has lived back in the town for the last 5 years. And is very much looking forward to being involved with the commission. And so we're happy to nominate her here tonight. And I will say too, we did interview 3 candidates. All the candidates were excellent. And people that all 3 of the candidates we interviewed are people with a deep connection to the town and have a deep appreciation for what the Historic Preservation Commission does. And we were very fortunate that the Historic Preservation Commission actually has a lot of activity. There's folks that want to be a part of what's going on there. There's a lot of energy there. And so we're pleased with the 2 candidates that we have, but we also thank the candidate that wasn't selected, and would like to nominate them for your consideration here tonight. And so I'll go ahead and
Make a formal motion.
make a formal motion. I'll get to it. Yes. Yeah. So I make a motion that the council accept the candidates proposed here by the subcommittee and the staff report for assignment in those respective roles to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion or comments?
Just a question, Mr. Gutenberg.
Mhm.
Both town residents?
They both are town residents.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
And my only comment was thank you for doing that. And the person that was not chosen right now will still stay active
Yes.
on a subcommittee. So that's wonderful. It's always good to put your name in the hat for advancements. So any other comments?
No, ma'am. Not for-
All right, if you are in favor, please indicate aye. If not, nay. A roll call, please, Madam Town Clerk.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to legislation, and it's you, Mr. Stevens.
Okay, all right. Council, good evening. For your consideration tonight, you've got ordinance 25-09, amendment to the Town of La Plata fiscal year 2026 fee schedule. This is your second reading for consideration of adoption. This is an ordinance concerning amendment to the Town of La Plata fiscal year 2026 fee schedule for the purpose of amending the fiscal year 2026 fee schedule dealing with fees set by the Town of La Plata and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 25-09 as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you very much. Any discussion? All right, if you are in favor, please indicate by saying aye. If not, nay. Madam Town Clerk.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Aye.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And that brings us to the first reading of, or the introduction of ordinance 25-10.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. Ordinance 25-10 is tourism zones. This is the first reading for introduction. This is an ordinance concerning tourism zones for the purpose of establishing tourism zones in the town of La Plata as authorized by the Maryland Code, Local Government Section 18-401, and to define the administration of a program of incentives to qualified tourism businesses located within such tourism zones to encourage growth and expansion of tourism-related businesses in the town of La Plata and all matters generally relating thereto.
Thank you so much. That brings us to our reports. I'm going to start off with you, Councilman Gutenberg.
All right. I will be as brief as I can. This past between now and our last session, I was pleased to be able to participate and attend the MML State of the Municipality event up in Annapolis, Maryland. Always good speakers at those kinds of events, and received some really good access to data, right? Like to really dig into kind of how things are for municipalities, and it was just very good. I won't say much more about that. I know the mayor is going to talk about that for a bit.
No, you can say it's.
No. It's no, that's good. Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to point out, we were just talking about the Historic Preservation Commission and the new members that we just adopted there. You know, we did just have our every other month meeting just this past week, and some really good conversations happened there at that. And I know we're about to have some more conversations in this category, which is how our boards and commissions function. And I think we had some really good dialogue around adoption of a 5-year plan on that meeting. And so, but I think I just wanted to point out to other members of the council that conversation. It might be worth listening to because of the way the council or that commission worked through an issue. I think I was really proud of that, what we did as a group there, because it's something that I think as a group we've been working on together for a few meetings. And so getting through that, we had some really pertinent conversations around how we function and what the roles are between staff and the commissions. And I know we're about to do some training early next year on this same topic. So just looking forward to continuing those kinds of conversations. And so I just wanted to bring that up. And then, you know, we've got upcoming on the Planning Commission, so some really good stuff going on there. You know, the town manager has been talking to us about the APFO. You know, that is going to get its first public presentation of that substantial draft, and it really is a substantial draft that we're going to have at the Planning Commission meeting. So I hope if there are folks that look at that agenda and have feedback to provide, I hope they take the time to do that. It's our number one priority, I think, on the council, and staff has really done a tremendous amount of work and coordination. It's just amazing to hear all the work that's gone into where it is, and it shows. It really is, and it's very much appreciated. And I think, you know, so it's going to be some really good conversation. I know, you know, there's probably some stuff to work through with it, but it's really in good shape for where we need to be. Also related to the Planning Commission, I know that, you know, we this year we brought former Councilman Jenkins onto the Planning Commission as a alternate member, and I think we know now that he will be moving on, you know, early next year. And so I'll just tease that, you know, that we just put some people on the Historic Preservation Commission. There's going to be an opening on the Planning Commission, and so, you know, I'll tease that. And you know, if there's folks that are interested in that, and if people here know of people that would be good candidates for that, you know, like, please send them our way, and then be watching for that to come out, that public notice. And with that, I'm done.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is important for elected officials to admit when they make a mistake and they've truly messed up, and I truly messed up last meeting. I did not recognize November 10th as the Marine Corps birthday. So, Mr. Stevens, I personally apologize to you and to every Marine, always a Marine, and we are very thankful for your service. Despite being a Department of the Navy member, right, we still do respect you and treat you as our older brother. So thank you for everything that you all have done. We truly mean that. We had the ability to celebrate Thanksgiving. So I hope everybody had the opportunity to spend some time with family and friends and loved ones and really reflect on the year. A lot to be thankful for here in the town of La Plata. And again, I'm thankful for all my colleagues up here, the staff that comes in every single day and really delivers for my neighbors, my residents in my hometown. So thank you very much for all of that. December 7th was Pearl Harbor Day, so a day in which the United States was attacked. So important to recognize what happened there, the sacrifice that those Americans made, and the sacrifice that a bunch of Americans made afterwards. Here in La Plata, on a more happy note, we had the tree lighting ceremony that same day. So I got to see Mayor James. I saw Councilman Gutenberg and his family, Councilman Johnson. I got to see a bunch of really cool Jeeps come through the town. So thank you to everybody who put that together. It means a lot. And then December 8th is the celebration of the Immaculate Conception. So just as we head into Advent, Christmas season and all that, we get another opportunity to really reflect with family and friends. I know the staff will be taking a well-earned extra day on December 26th. So I hope you guys have the ability to celebrate whatever holidays you recognize in your family, and you have some well-deserved off time. And then for the police force who has to work on those holidays when a lot of us don't, Thank you very much for everything that you all do. I teased it earlier, but I want to talk about the Finance Committee meeting that happened a little bit earlier today. And one of the really great discussions that I think we answered for you, Mr. Stevens, in the questions that you asked, but the Finance Committee wanted to make it clear, like, hey, listen, we've done a great job moving forward with what is defined as operational costs. But one of the things that we really have to be cognizant of are these things that we put down as capital improvement, and it's really just a normal operational cost. And the big one that came up was the IT issue. And I'm just really glad to hear finance talking about, hey, if this is something that we know is going to happen, right? We know that the lifespan of this service is 3 years. We're at the 3-year mark. Then it has to be an operational cost. I was just really happy to hear we are taking all those extra steps. And again, Ms. Larson, you and I talked well before the election and then afterwards, just the progress that all the department heads have made on that front. And I think a lot of that is attributed to you. So I want to make sure I said thank you to you here on the council for doing that. And I'm really looking forward to our next budget discussion, especially with the answers that the council gave today. And then the final thing I want to talk about is process. So I get it. It may be frustrating to listen back to the exchange between Mayor James and Councilman Johnson on, well, are we going to table the discussion? Are we going to move it forward? That was an important discussion that happened. And I hope the town understands. And I think Councilman Gutenberg, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Sampson, the mayor, and myself, we all made it perfectly clear. Mr. Stevens, we cannot have a bridge at all. I'm really glad to hear that January 13th seems like an appropriate and realistic day to get a new town attorney actually approved permanently. But heaven forbid that doesn't happen. We have now given the town manager the instruction to go ahead and ensure we have that bridge. So again, I know the process looks muddy and, why are we talking about this so long? That's why. It's to protect the town. It was a great discussion. I just want to make sure I commended Councilman Johnson for bringing up and Madam Mayor for really going through the process there. So thank you to both of you.
Nothing.
Councilman Johnson.
All right, good evening. So first, happy holidays to everybody. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to attend the Hawthorne Green holiday party, which was attended by Mayor James and Councilman Sampson. So I was glad to attend. And if you saw the two ladies that walked in a little bit after, they live in Hawthorne Green, and they're here because we engaged them on when our council meetings are. So unfortunately, there's still a lack of awareness around when the council meet, or if we even have a town council, and where they do meet at. And they say, we're going to come, but I'm not coming along alone. And both of them came to our meeting. So just as we're out and about, just continue to engage our residents about how we operate and when we meet. I should have probably started this off first. The mayor acknowledged the Opens Meeting Act violation at the beginning of the meeting for our retreat. I want to make it clear to the residents that there was no intent from the body to not have the public attend the retreat. And I think we all take the act very serious, and we are responsible. And saying that if we were responsible, it wouldn't have happened. Mistakes happen. There was no intentional to deceive the public on when we were meeting. And we all and the great thing about this is every council member took the Open Meetings Act compliance, and we all have a responsibility when we think it don't seem right to probably say something to make sure it's advertised. So great learnings. And I should have opened my comments with that. I also attended the State of the Municipality at Governor's Calvert House in Annapolis. And same as Councilman Gutenberg said, and I'm sure the mayor would say, it was great to attend it. They provided a study that the University of Maryland, Baltimore School of Public Policy did regarding municipal budgets and services. And in those municipal budgets and services, it tells you what the average is for each service provided and how much potentially that government provides per resident, the cost. So only 77 responded, but it's still healthy numbers that I think the council should review. I know if you get the MML emails, it'll be out sometime this week, but I have it. And Chuck, send it to you, just if you could send it to the council. I think it's also healthy as we go into budget season. And, if I'll share it on social media, but I think it's also helpful for our residents to see how municipal budgets work, and that we may not be overinflating a particular service because this is the average provided across the state. So the school did a lot of work on that, and they were very intentional on where they were coming. So the second thing is, thanks for the comprehensive operational report, Chuck. I'm glad to see that it was 0% turnover. You couldn't hear me. Thank you. So I wrapped up. I attended the Christmas Tree of Life at the University of Maryland. And the last thing is to the point of boards while we was there, eventually next year, I think we should work towards, or somewhere in the future, getting rules and procedures for all the boards and commissions and move it to a point of an annual update to the council on work being done. And I think the first step is being done on a historic preservation committee with the, what do you call it? The work plan that you're bringing forward. So we're able to identify what the commissions are doing on behalf of the council and the community. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great report. So 1 and 4 took my thunder.
This
away,
is
but
not
That's all
working.
right. I attended the Springdale auction last week. Was it only last week? And Springdale is in the incorporated town limits, and they support adults living with disabilities. And I had such a great time. The auction was very, very long. There were a lot of great things. I probably spent more money than I should, but you know, it's for a good cause. That's for your benefit back there. I participated in the Walk to End Homelessness. It is to benefit, it's to raise awareness for homelessness in our town and county. It was in the rain. Thank you to our police force for being out there and making sure everyone was safe while we were walking. Oh, Councilman Johnson forgot something else he participated in. He went to the Rochambeau 250th celebration and Victory Town a couple weeks ago. That was fascinating to listen to this guest speaker that had just done a 4-day 4 days of, I guess, filming for PBS. Yes. Oh, it was really cool. If you have the opportunity to watch the PBS special, it was really informative, and she was quite dynamic. I participated, and I sent the American Legion riders off for their journey to go collect toys throughout the town, and then met them here at Town Hall. They do that every year. It is amazing to collect these toys for, it's called the Toy for Tot Run. They did that on the same day of Shop Small Saturday, which I went from place to place, because if you don't know, I might be a little bit competitive, and there was something that you could win at the end. I didn't win just for that, and I wouldn't have won, but it was the passport. And Kelly, Director Phipps back there, I'm giving you the shout out because you did an amazing job. The Business Association, the Plato Business Association, used to do that. And in the absence of that, Director Phipps stepped up and really did a wonderful job with that. Already talked about the Maryland Municipal League, State of the Municipality, and it was so worth going up there. If nothing else, to hear American Waters talk. And I was drooling at one point because they were so, their presentation was awesome, and the Q&A was really good. And I joined these 2 colleagues down here at the Hawthorne Green Holiday Gathering. They are a fantastic bunch at Hawthorne Green, the Old Time Holiday Gathering. I got to put it on the record that Councilman Gutenberg came to me, and when I heard, it might have been a little loud, but I heard you say that you want to be the one that does the karaoke next year. I don't know if I heard that correctly.
For the record, you misunderstood.
And it was well attended. It was cold, but it was a lot of fun. And then Monday, well, yes, I have to kind of say what happened yesterday. It was only yesterday. So 45 of us got together, and we went out I do have 44 other friends, and we went to breakfast. And we participated in what's called Operation Charles County Shock and Claws. And after our breakfast, we all left a tip for these 2 great servers, and their tip was $4,500 because we each brought a $100 tip for this. They were shocked. They are twins there, and they were absolutely speechless. So this has been going on for several years. And this is the first year that I was able to participate in it. It was so heartwarming. Tomorrow, I will participate with our police at Shop with a Cop, and I've done this for several years, and it is so fun to see the kids go through. We have a child that has been entrusted in our care that we take care of, and we have a list that is provided from the family that we go shopping for. And if you really wanted to have fun, when Chief Schinner had a beautiful little girl that was shopping, and he looked to me going, I have no idea about clothes. That's where my shopping is, I can do. And then on Saturday, if you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer, it is outside of our jurisdiction, but it impacts so many of us. Wreaths Across America, they are going to be up in Cheltenham Cemetery, and they're laying wreaths on for honoring the veterans, especially those who sacrificed their lives for our country. And the wreath serves as a living tribute. And what they do is they say the veteran's name aloud when they're putting the wreath placement on. So it's very moving and very, and it's a very nice thing to do if you do have some extra time. All right, with that said, we have a reason to go into closed session. If I could get someone to make a motion, that would be wonderful. I have it here if you need.
Okay. All right. Is my mic working? It is. All right. Madam Mayor, I make a motion to go into closed session for statutory authority to close session, section 3-305B1I, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of an appointee, employee, or official over who it has jurisdiction, the topic being the town manager performance appraisal, the reason for closure, discussion concerns evaluation of individual employees.
Thank you so much, and very well said for the record. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If you are in favor of going into closed session for said reason, please indicate when they do roll call in the affirmative, or if not, in the negative. Madam Town Clerk, one last time tonight.
Councilman Gutenberg,
Yes.
Councilman McCormick,
Aye.
Councilman Sampson,
Yes.
Councilman Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor James.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And with that, I officially adjourn this meeting at 8:36 p.m. Thank you so much for coming. You did a nice job.